This is Willis's World, signing in once again for another character guide for BDO. The Guardian Awakening. This character kit is a lot of cleave. The Succession has decent numbers and decent cleave. The Awakening has extremely high numbers and extremely high cleave. However, its control is somewhat restricted to PvE. I have only found one or two abilities. Well, I don't even think I found one or two abilities. Yeah, knockdown PvE. Bound isn't really that good of a control, but it is unrestricted. Floating PvE only. Bound PvE only. Yeah. A good control in this kit is for PvE. So the fact that it has no control for PvP does kind of restrict its usage, but its damage numbers kind of negate it a little. Because you see, yeah, it's high numbers. The Succession, most of its skills went anywhere from 700 to 1200%. Fireborn Rupture, already, base thing in the kit, is doing 1211 damage times 4. Then going to 2 Ashes is 1439 times 6. Then going from that into Cleansing Flame is 1783 times 8. And going from Cleansing Flame into God Incinerator, it's 1056 times 14. And then there is a flow that we are doing called Searing Fang, and that will flow into Suppress. All it is shift right and hold the right. That's the extent of it. And what that will do is 1049 times 4. Suppress does 1195 times 8. And there's Super Armor and Bound. That Bound is unrestricted. And Searing Fang is Bound, PvE restricted. There's a lot of Bound in this kit, but a lot of it is PvE restricted, and the few that aren't, it's not really that powerful of a debuff in PvP. So due to this, I feel like the Awakening is for the PvE game mode, and Nuclear Cleave if you do go into PvP. However, if you're in a one-on-one in PvP, I would actually recommend the Succession, because you can control lock the enemy and keep them unable to hit you while you're smacking them. Whereas, for the Awakening in PvP, if you use the bound skills that are unrestricted to PvE, it's just a temporary falter in their movement. That's it. They can still smack you, they just can't chase after you for a second. But yeah. Now the combo of this skill, how it looks in combat, is kind of flashy. You play with a lot of fire. And that's it. And then you just repeat. Super simple. You don't have to push many buttons. And it's very high sustain, because you still have access to your healing passive. You still have healing from God Incinerator. And yeah, even if it's just those two things, God Incinerator hits 14 times to 10 targets for 50 HP per hit. It is a massive heal, and not to mention on those hits, it's also decreasing enemies' DP, making you deal even more damage. And yeah, it's a lot of DP loss if you're hit by all of them, because that is 14 hits going on 20 DP decrease on all of them. Which means, yeah, you've got 280 DP decrease off of that skill if you are hit by every single hit in it. And to put that into perspective, the best gear in the game, the Fallen God Black Star gear. The chest piece is already out. Nothing else is yet, but Black Star being fully enhanced and the chest piece being Fallen God. You have 384 DP. So losing it out on 280 of that brings you down to 100 DP. It is a massive defense break. And your heal. And it's good on bosses too. Although bosses have a shit ton of DP, so it's going to take a minute to get rid of all that, and it's going to take a few people to get rid of all that. But not only that, just before you go into their defense fall, you got Cleansing Fame over here that is decreasing all their damage. And then before that, you got the Bound there, that's kind of meh. And then you got the AP increase on use there. This is more of a PvE kit, but there are some points in it that it fits well into PvP. There's just no control in it for PvP, because that is one thing you should realize in these skill motions. The thing about them, all of these skill motions that you're going into, if someone CCs you during those skills, it will interrupt those skills. And if your God Incinerator gets interrupted, that's your heal taken away. If your Cleansing Flame gets interrupted, they're maintaining their full damage, and you're not decreasing their AP. And with those two, there's really no point in controlling while they're active, but there's still some douches that will. Because CC for PvP in this game is a absolute must. If they control you before you control them, the battle has basically already been decided. Because a lot of characters in this game that are actually for PvP, they have CC flows that will keep you locked on the ground. And the Guardian Succession is no different. So, my view on the Guardian, both kits are incredibly brutal, but I feel Awakening's home is PvE, and Succession's home is PvP. Don't get me wrong, they both can very much dabble into each other's playing fields, but that is where I feel they primarily shine the best. That is my Awakening guide for the Guardian done, and that is Willis's World, signing out of yet another